All right, and so on Data Point, we're paying some special focus on what exactly is happening in the sugar sector, knowing that there are those concerns of Kenyans talking about the very high cost of it. Let's take a look at understanding. At the moment, a kilo of sugar is retailing at between 210 shillings up to 250 shillings, depending on where you're buying, but also where the one selling to you got it from. A 2 kg packet is retailing at between 420 shillings and 500 shillings. But there are certain factors that you need to put into consideration. At the moment, according to the Sugar Task Force report of 2018, there are sugar factories to the tune of 14. The national demand of sugar as of that time was 1 million metric tons, slightly over 1 million. The local production at the time that is documented was 490,704 metric tons, and therefore there was a deficit in the country of 521,695. That is more than 50% of the demand. The milling capacity, out of these 14 factories, the milling capacity was 14.96 metric tons of cane, and therefore this is just about 41,000 tons of cane per day. It can be processed to become sugar. We'll be looking at how much of cane becomes sugar and at what level. So at the moment, the current production is 4.75 metric tons of cane, and this is 48% of the capacity. So the requirement is we need 9.84 metric tons of sugarcane, but the country, the farms are only able to produce that, which is 48%. But this can produce up to 1.09 metric tons of sugar. That is, the requirement can produce 1.09 metric tons of sugar, which is sufficient to cover the national demand. But the sugar sector supports up to 8 million Kenyans. This is those that are in the farming business or also the processing activities, and these also affect some 400,000 small-scale farmers that produce 90% of the cane required by the factories in the country. Something that is important here is the market trends. At the moment, 1 ton of cane, that is 1,000 kilograms of sugar cane, can give you on average 100 kilograms, which is just about 10% output. That is another average. Cost of cane at the moment, 1 ton is retailing at about 5,500 shillings on average, and therefore, but what they say, those that are in the industry, they are saying that even as you factor this production, that 100 kilograms of sugar can come from 1 ton of cane, it also depends on the sucrose content of the cane that has been brought to the factory by the various farmers. That also speaks to the quality. So at the moment, when you're producing cane in the country or you're producing sugar in the country, you have to consider the cost of cane, that is the buying of the cane itself, but also the transport costs. And once you get to the factory, there's the cost of energy of what has to be used to do the processing. There's the cost of electricity. There's the cost of fuel for the boilers, but also the labor that you require to do all these processes. And then again, there are chemicals that are used for processing of sugar. So that has to be factored in. Then again, that, according to some of the experts in the industry, they are saying that that cost of production does not necessarily determine the price that you have to get your kilo of sugar at. Now, these are some numbers that you have to look at based on the Sugar Directorate. They are talking about the current prices, but also moving back to up to December 2022. The wholesale price of a 50 kilogram bag of sugar has come from as low as 6,844, which was an average of 137 shillings per kilo. Now we are talking about the month of May, which is the latest figure according to the Sugar Directorate, 9,252 shillings for a 50 kilogram bag. On average, that then becomes 185 shillings per kilo. But the retail market has been quite dramatic, because as of December 2022, a kilo of sugar was retailing at 155 shillings. That's why 2 kgs were retailing at about 310 shillings. This has gone up. As of the month of May, it was 211 shillings per kilo of sugar, which is, if you have to convert that to a 2 kilo packet, it will be just over 420 shillings. Something extra that you need to take note of is that the sugar imports have been behaving in an interesting manner. As of January 2022, the metric tons that were imported into the country were 22,722. The month of February, it was 28,609. But something happened in the month of March. 93,000, according to the Sugar Directorate, 93,000 tons were imported into the country. So you ask yourself, why is sugar not becoming cheaper despite having a higher importation? Remember, this is the time that the duty-free window was opening as gazetted by the government. But then if you look at the numbers in April and May, they were slightly lower than the month of March, but as of May, since January, 187,000 metric tons had been imported. The government had gazetted importation of up to 280,000 metric tons by the month of August. Now, these are the average prices. That imported sugar, when it lands at the port of Mombasa, in the month of May, 1 ton was costing 88,525 shillings on average. If you had to divide that by 1,000 kilograms, then you're talking about, on average, a kilo is landing at the port of Mombasa at 88 shillings. But when it gets to the retail market, it is at 211 shillings as of May 2023. If you're talking about January this year, 77,873 shillings was the cost per ton. That's an average of 77 shillings. The price, retail price, was 155. So something interesting is happening there. Something else that you need to note is that as of the sugar sales, they have been declining. So the price is going up. The stock supply in the country, the local production, not as high, but the sugar sales are going down. This could speak to the demand. In December 2022, the sector sold 64,988 metric tons of sugar. In January, it was also 65,000. In February, it was 81,000. But you're talking about May 2023, 28,200 metric tons is what was sold. So the sales volumes are declining, but the prices are going up. How does that work? So the market reality is at the moment is that imported sugar is being packaged in local brands. I'm sure you have visited your nearest shop and seen that there are so many local brands, but then the factories are closed. Where is the sugar coming from? Millers, are they becoming packers as well? We do not know. Sugar blending is also happening. According to industry players, they're saying you go to the market, you realize that a packet of sugar has different crystals, different colors. It's called sugar blending. Why? There's a new excise tax of 5 shillings per kilo on imported sugar imposed by the Finance Act 2023. Something that is of concern, the free market trends, because the price of sugar does not depend on the cost of production. It is depending on something else, not even the power of demand and supply. Price distortions could be a reality of what is happening. In fact, the Sugar Task Force that was launched by President Kenyatta and gave a report after the 2018 launch talked about price distortions. The raw sugar could be reaching the market, according to some sources, yet the country has no refinery for sugar. So the task force recommendations were enhance the cane and sugar production in the country, enhance milling efficiency, promote favorable sugar marketing and trade, compliance with COMESA recommendations that talk about duty-free importation, quota-free basis for the sake of that importation. And that is Data Point this evening on the status of sugar and the prices in the country.